beautiful thing is now with the advent of Zoom and more seniors are Zooming, there's no reason to go to the gym or go out of your home or be concerned with the cost. You know, a lot of us are living on Social Security. I'm not ashamed to say it. At 68, I get a Social Security check. Is it enough? Absolutely not. However, classes are free and online for your insurance company. But what your listeners should know is that your insurance company may cover your cost of doing classes. And AgeLess specifically offers a number of classes at a number of different levels. So whatever it is you want, all you have to do is tune in. They say that folks live a lot longer in our age group if they're engaged in community and engaged in something. And that is really what it's all about.
Because at the end of the day, we have to be in the top shape for ourselves and our loved ones. And so if we have individuals, perhaps we are, like you said, living on our own. If we're living on our own, we definitely want to be in the shape where we can pick ourselves up. It's gotten to be a point of comedy because years ago they had that little alarm necklace, and if you fall,
right.
And the lady said, I've fallen and I can't get up. But the challenge is,
right.
so many people fall and they can't pick themselves up.
When I switched careers in 2005 and I quit my corporate job to take care of my son, because I no longer wanted to ask, can I be off? I had to take him to this doctor. Can I be off? And waiting for that one check every 2 weeks. Okay. And then you have to beg somebody, I'm doing a really good job. What I can tell you now is that I make my own way. And is it a challenge? Yes. As an entrepreneur, I get to determine my schedule. And as a senior, that's important to me. My schedule, who I work with.
Welcome back to Crush Your Mountain Wellness. Joining us today is the phenomenal Sheba Kafanya, founder of Panache Fitness Company, a Miami-based health, wellness, and healing organization dedicated to transforming lives through innovative fitness and integrated lifestyle solutions. After undergoing a hip replacement in 2018 and courageously facing a second total hip replacement in 2025, Sheba has turned personal adversity into a philosophy rooted in discipline, adaptability, faith, and perseverance. Her journey is a powerful testament to resilience in action. Beyond her leadership in fitness, Sheba is a devoted mother caring for her special needs son and a committed entrepreneur building impact alongside her husband, Nate Williams. Together, they continue to inspire through service, strength, and purpose. She is also the co-creator of AGELESS Workout, programs designed to help individuals reclaim and sustain strength, vitality, and confidence at every stage of life. Through Panache Fitness, she delivers more than training. She creates transformative wellness experiences. Recently, she's been nominated as an AARP-sponsored athlete for 2025. She's a living example of longevity, resilience, and possibility. You're going to learn what it means to be resilient and why working out at any age is vital for your fitness, how to build resilience in the face of challenges as we get older, and then what it means to be mindful of our finances and other things that can help us now and into the future. Without any further ado, please welcome back to this channel, Ms. Sheba Kafanya. Sheba Kafanya, welcome to Crush Your Mountain Wellness. So good to see you again, love.
Well, thank you so much for having me on again. I'm so honored to see you again and that you're interested in my story and that we can share it with others. Trying to crush my mountain.
Well, I'll tell you what, the honor is mine. Okay, you and Nate are incredible people. On my end, there have been so many unique challenges and unexpected challenges that happened. And when I got the invite to speak at an event for Nate, I wasn't able to do it, but I'm looking forward to maybe some if the opportunity rolls around, maybe I'll do it again. In the meantime, you're one that's refining or redefining the concept of aging. So you've overcome two hip replacements and one a partial, one a full, and you still lead with strength and resilience. How do you define what it means to age well in this 21st century?
Well, thank you so very much. That's an interesting question, but let me just correct you a second. Both my hip replacements are total hip replacements. So the one in 2018 is a titanium rod with a titanium ball. Nowadays, they do the hip replacements with a ceramic ball and a titanium rod. So I am somewhat of a guinea pig because they haven't trusted the efficacy of how this works. They say it works fine. They really don't know. It's kind of like COVID. And the other thing you should put in there is that I had foot surgery last year this time, joint toe replacement, two toes shortened, and a bigger implant in the right leg where the hip replacement was 46 days ago. But the resiliency comes from strength and belief in myself, and that you just have to keep going. We call it managing the condition, not allowing the condition to manage you. Things happen in life, and I think you have to either be prepared or you're not prepared, and sometimes they're a surprise. And so you have to learn to cope. And I think coping skills are an under-recognized skill set, both for seniors and as well as for our youth these days.
That's very
Coping
true.
skills are few and far between. Most of my girlfriends are working with their children, their grandchildren. I, of course, have a special needs son, so I've been working with him for 34 years. So, I learned how to cope right out of the box, if you will. But I think it's all about coping and seeing the positiveness in each situation, and trying to turn that around. And also the mindset. I think you have to have a good mindset, an ageless mindset.
So now, should we change your name to the Bionic Woman because you're all these different replacements and everything else? You're bigger, stronger, faster than you were before. Is that what it is?
I like to believe that, but I actually go by the tag Ageless Wonder. So I am the original Ageless Wonder, because of that mindset through all of the difficulties. And so, it's a challenge.
Mhm.
What you see here is the upside of this today. And if you've been following me on social media, you see that I've been icing, taking a number of techniques, heat, ice, physical therapy. We've got a bench K back there that we're ambassadors for that I do some rehab on. But it's not been as easy as I'm saying today, but it's been a challenge, and every opportunity is an opportunity to go forward and be more resilient.
Yeah, takes me to the idea of functional movement because there are a lot of people out there say, of course, when we work out, you get the results and they are visible to us, but not everyone is looking for to be buff at a certain age. So functional movement tends to be a little bit more important. Why is functional movement such a vital part of a healthy aging lifestyle? And how does it differ from traditional fitness approaches for seniors?
Well, that's a great question, and there's two parts to that. While everyone is not necessarily looking to be buff, we lose a lot of muscle mass, so we do need to do some level of strength training. Buff is not where I'm at; it just happens that way. But it has to have you have to have that strength training to create so you don't get osteoporosis, osteopenia, and you lose muscle mass every year that you get older. So you don't want to become frail. You want to stay strong for as long as you can with the idea of functional training. So there's strength training and then there's functional training, both of which we do here in our studio and online for the classes that we teach nationally and for AARP. So they're both equally as important, but functional training allows you to do the things that you used to do 20, 30, 40 years ago, but also helps you maintain your independence. Keeps you from slipping and falling so you can play with your grandchildren if you have grandchildren, so you can go to the store. I never realized, and I've always said this, but movement is a gift, and you never realize how much movement is a gift until you're unable to move. So I was unable to go to the grocery store. I wasn't able to water my orchids. I couldn't get in the pool. And so that whole situation really spoke to me about what I say to people. I say it, but then when you're in this situation, it becomes very, very real. And so that in maintaining that independence is important to all of us. We don't want to have our children take care of us. We don't want to be an imposition to anyone else. We want to be able to feed ourselves. We clearly want that independence we had in our youth. And quite honestly, these are our golden years. So what better way to take care of yourself than to take care of yourself?
So many things have changed in this day and age, and the AGELESS workout philosophy really helps individuals to focus in on that because the world is different when you accept that the world is different. If we think in terms of everything being status quo, no change, then we're going to wind up in a state of non-growth and in fact, slow decay. So with the AGELESS workout program that you and they developed, what are the key principles that help silver seniors not just maintain, but increase their power as they age?
Well, one of the things is the AGELESS workout is for everyone. So we get folks that are in their 30s who are unable to do it, all the way up to our oldest client, Miss Marilyn. We love her dearly. She just passed away. She's 100.
Wow.
But I think the philosophy is that you have to have a mindset. And we, of course, demonstrate all of our exercises at different levels. So we believe that it should be inclusive. So first thing you have to do is come, make that commitment to set a goal for yourself. So what studies tell us is there has to be purpose in your life. There has to be a scheduled appointment. Just as if you went to work before you became a senior, you make that appointment to go online, to go to the gym, and then you also integrate the social in it. So if you're online, the social becomes part of it because you see others doing it. Or if you go to the gym, you know that you're going to see friends there or whoever, or the same people that you don't know are going to see you and say, hi, how are you? So we think that purpose and scheduling this as a priority is important, but it's also important to keep moving. And we say you want to keep moving in the right direction. So any movement is good. Any movement is good. Recent research shows that walking leads to longevity. Grip strength leads to longevity. So it's not necessarily about getting in there, pushing the weights as much as it is becoming a part of a movement. And that's where it really needs to happen. Older individuals need to have that kind of somewhat regiment in their mind because really you don't want to become a dinosaur. You want to kind of come along a little bit with your mindset. We all know that change is difficult. Change is difficult in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, but certainly it can become more difficult the way the world is changing politically, economically, with your family, with the way families are structured, with the healthcare system, which is a whole nother conversation for a whole nother podcast. And you have to be able to adapt to those changes. And here we adapt to change every single day. Every single day, there's a change or something changes or it's different, or you have to work with someone that's a little more challenging and things didn't go the way you wanted. And so it's that ability to what we call pivot. And I'll do some exercises for you so your folks can see what it's like 46 days after hip replacement if you have the proper training that you can still move. Nothing spectacular, but just that movement mindset it's probably, the second priority that your mind is open. I mean, you can simply do your arms like this and you're rotating your shoulders and working your delts because there are weights in here, muscles, bones, tendons, ligaments, and it's just that simple thing of moving. The third thing I would say is posture. Posture is so important at this age. Um, Posture affects your falls, your balance, your agility. So you want to work on posture, perhaps taking a class, a Pilates class. You can do Pilates online. And the beautiful thing is now with the advent of Zoom and more seniors are Zooming, there's no reason to go to the gym or go out of your home or be concerned with the cost. A lot of us are living on Social Security. I'm not ashamed to say it. at 68. I get a Social Security check. Is it enough? Absolutely not. Okay. However, classes are free and online. There's a number of sites. Age Bold is out there, Silver Sneakers, Vivo Fit. I specifically teach for Age Bold and do Age Bold talks. And we've been out to teach classes for them or record classes. And they work with insurance companies. So your insurance company, what your listeners should know is that your insurance company may cover your cost of doing classes. And Age Bold specifically offers a number of classes at a number of different levels. So whatever it is you want, all you have to do is tune in. They'll have support there to tell you if you're not used to Zooming. So that takes that apprehension away. You don't have to have your video on. So there's another opportunity to stay ahead and to be engaged in community. They say that folks live a lot longer in our age group if they're engaged in community and engaged in something. And that is really what it's all about. How do you stay engaged? Loneliness is a number one concern with older adults, with the pandemic, and there was isolation and shelter in place. But now there's a whole world open to you, and you don't even have to turn your video on if you don't want to. Aegis Workout supports all of those kind of avenues to keep you moving in the right direction.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. So, our conversation just sort of led right into the next question I wanted to ask, which basically came down to two things: mindset and resilience. Many people view aging as a decline. So now looking at you, it's obvious you don't see it that way, and neither does Nate see it that way. So, what mindset shifts do you believe are necessary to see it instead as an opportunity for growth, strength, and vitality?
Well, if you think of it this way, there's a lot of money made, at least in America, of an aging population. There's money to be made by that, And so one of the examples we use is people walk into a nursing home, but they don't walk out. All right. What you have to do is kind of reprogram your mind and understand that aging is not a disease, it's a gift.
Mm.
It is better to get old than not to get old at all. Recently I taught a class over in Sunny Isles Beach, and the client was Russian, and she's 92, and she said to me, "What's the use?" I said, "What's the use? You're 92 in the water at 9 o'clock in the morning. You look good, you feel good, you're breathing." Sometimes we take those things for granted because everything seems like it's overwhelming. And believe me, I certainly can relate to that. I had a number of things going on before this podcast, but you've just got to take a step back, take a breath, and be able to refocus, readjust your lenses, just as you did when you were 30, 40, 50, 60. You're not quite 60 yet, Henry, so it won't count for you, but
Thank you
okay.
so much for saying that. I can't tell you how much how good I feel with that coming from you. Okay, of course you look like you're about 38 instead of the 60 that you say that you are. So you're the only person other than my sister-in-law who 20-year-olds will hit on. Okay, my
Oh
sister,
my God.
my sister-in-law's got about 4 years on me. She's about 72, and and there are guys trying to talk to her all the time, and she's like, "Well, my grandkid's older than you." She's but she's
Right.
amazing. And you're amazing too. So for you to say that I haven't hit 60 yet, when I will be 62 in a few months.
Oh, just a baby. Everybody
That's
in here is 68 and above,
that's
68 and 71.
that's what they tell me. That's what they tell me. So now, I wanted to talk a little bit about your journey in terms of the hip replacement, this most recent one, because you had that July 11th of this year. That's just a few days ago, just last month. So, well, yeah, and by the time this podcast reaches the audience, it's going to be 2026. It's going to be the first quarter. So it's going to be even further along. But now tell us about your journey. What were you noticing that led you to move in the direction of getting the replacement? And I understand that there were some challenges, maybe the old Frank Zappa song says one of my legs is shorter than the other and both of my feet too long or something like that. Tell us
Right,
about
right.
what happened. Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Well, in 2018, I had my first hip replacement, and the priority back then was to take you out of pain. And so there was a little miscalculation that left one leg longer than the other, about 0.87 centimeters. And so normally people wouldn't notice that, but being a wellness professional, I noticed that. And so I had that surgery in April. 4 weeks later, my podiatrist worked on my foot and did a joint toe replacement. And we realized after that, 4 weeks later than that, I was at Special Olympics in Seattle with my son. So great recovery, everything's good. We came back and we realized that there was this limb length discrepancy. I went for what's called a scanogram. I would recommend everyone go, if you're going to have some surgery in the lower part of your body with an orthopedist, you ask them to give you a scanogram. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, which leads me to you have to be the CEO of your own health. Okay, that's where I got that one from. And so we realized back in 2019 there was a limb length discrepancy. My podiatrist made orthotics and it kind of settled it out. Fast forward to 2024, I began limping and having some issues with my hip. So we knew there was limb length discrepancy, but couldn't quite figure out what the limp was, and it turned to pain. And that was in January. I had some cortisone shots twice. And that probably wasn't the best thing because you wouldn't want to put cortisone in your body twice in the same place if it didn't work. So there was a little bit of afterthought about that after talking to some other health professionals, but decided and realized based on an x-ray and an MRI and a CT scan that I needed another hip replacement because the space between the ball joint was off and the limb length discrepancy. So this constant on my right side wasn't good, and I had that second surgery on my foot. That's a little out of order last August. And so thus began the journey to get this hip replaced. And so I went back to the original doctor. He's a little more sensitive and a little older. And he realized he made a mistake and made one limb too long. So he was committed to making it right with the same apparatus. I went over to another doctor at University of Miami, and they have a digital procedure that they send you through where they measure the limb length digitally. However, they use a different apparatus, which is ceramic, and the ball is ceramic and the apparatus is titanium. These are all questions you should ask the doctor. Anything, any question you have, go with a list of questions. I would have gone with the first doctor. However, he was out of town and it was a matter of necessity. So I went with the new doctor in the limb length discrepancy kind of situation. And so I made that decision and went in on July 11th. Um, it's been interesting ever since. My body hasn't healed the same way. So it healed in pretty much in 8 days. So I could go back to personal training and teaching water classes, but not in the water. This time we're at day number 46 and I'm feeling a little bit better. I've been teaching and moving and working out, working with two different physical therapists, also working with my main trainer, which is my partner. He is a brother-in-law of a Olympic athlete, Butch Reynolds. So there's that philosophy of resiliency and training, and his way is a little bit different. Physical therapist, physical therapy, training is training. And just as a matter of fact, over the weekend, I've been feeling a little better and a little stronger, but it was no surgery is the same. I can share that with your audience. I'm a little older, so things happen. I think again is that positive mindset and pursuing a solution. I went back to my doctor and said, look, you know, this is not right. We're 4 weeks into this. I'm still having pain. A lot of times doctors just continually want to prescribe medications. And as a wellness professional, I cannot continue to take medications. Just can't. It's not in my makeup. It slows me down. I can't think. And it really acts as a Band-Aid. And I really don't want a Band-Aid. I want to get to the root cause of the situation. So I came off the medications and, trying to tough it out here as much as I can and dealing with the problem, which I believe is a foot strike issue and the hip. So that's where I am today, a lot better over the last couple days. And so it's taken a little longer, but there's no rush. Where am I going? But you always want to play back in your mind, this happened 8 years ago. Why is this not happening today? And we don't know why that is. Body's a little different, but I'm open to the change and I'm open to looking for a solution. I think sometimes we all get caught up in it's this one's fault, it's that one's fault, it's this one's fault. And, in my mind, I've exhausted those situations, but I'm on a better mindset. I went back to the podiatrist and he said, we're going to fix it, whatever it is. We're going to fix it. We're going to make it right. I cannot work walking into a facility limping, representing agelessness, let alone as a wellness professional. Who's going to hire me?
30 pounds overweight, trying to get a job as a fitness trainer, right? Doesn't quite work.
Well,
Can
they
you
do
hear?
that now. So be careful what you say. They do that now because everybody looks, right.
Well,
Exactly.
okay, I take it back.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh,
Be representative of everyone, but I am certainly a wholehearted person that you have to be able to represent what you do well. And so it is not necessarily that bodybuilder body or that lean body of where we're going. In fact, the images, I just had a conversation about this, images of women themselves has changed, our younger generation, the things that the young women are doing, regardless of culture, what they see, they're so influenced by social media. Who are you really? And how does that play when you get to be this age?
that's very true. Very true indeed. Very true indeed. So many times we deal with the doctors, and many times they have a very rigid mindset. That's why, just like you, when you say be the CEO of your health, I say make a doctor your coach and not your captain. We have to be mindful of helping them to see that we, number one, we do our research. Number two, we're going to ask the questions and we're going to listen to what they say and ask them the right questions as opposed to the medications and how long am I going to stay on this, and you set a goal to do that. One of the things I try to do now is kind of look at the nutrition side of things, because as we get older, our bodies change and we have various deficiencies that actually can be helped if not corrected with the increase of nutrition, the increase of the certain nutrients that we need. Because nothing, I have never dug an Ozempic pill out of the ground. Okay, I've never dug any other sort of medicine out of the ground, but I have dug plants out of the ground. I've picked plants off the fruit and vegetables off the trees and bushes, and they actually have the very things that the pharmaceutical companies are putting in pills along with other stuff. You know,
Right,
so
right,
so I
right.
think that's a great thing, huh? Go
I
ahead.
think I think nutrition is underrated. So, if you
Mm-hmm.
work with a bodybuilder who was my first trainer, they will tell you 80% is diet, 20% is exercise. Okay.
Yes.
20% is exercise. Diet meaning no, I'm going on a diet. Diet meaning your nutritional intake. So we believe in a plant-based diet with salads and vegetables and things of that nature. However, on the other side, for the things that are the GLP-1s and all of that, we have clients that work with that and we are very encouraged for them, because if you think you need that, that's fine. As long as you're under a doctor's care, from our perspective, we don't have to worry about that. You're under a doctor's care and he's giving you that, then we can worry about other things because your
Right.
appetite is under control. What we do see is people are afraid to come off of those kind of medications because they're going to
Yes.
get big. But we also see an incidence of muscle loss and people that become
Mm-hmm.
frail. And you can pretty much, generally speaking, I'm not a medical professional, tell when they've had because they get drawn in here. So recently there's
Ozempic
a famous
face.
there's a famous tennis athlete that she has now gone public that she's lost 31 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so it was a choice. And I think it works for her. And so I'm not
Mhm.
critical of that. I'm just, I would be apprehensive because there's no long-term studies, just like the COVID medicine. There are no long-term studies. But if it helps people and people believe they're helping, there's always been quick fixes, fen, there's always been all kinds of things,
Yes.
but nothing beats getting out, going for a walk, or watching what you eat, or putting the bread down, or if you go out or you have company over, taking that first drink, or you go to a party and taking and not taking that first drink, saying, yes, I'll have some water. And then while everyone else is drinking and moving along, you're one drink behind and you sip in a little water. It is all about moderation and self-control.
Absolutely. Now, me, I'm not a big drinker. I do celebrate the end of the week with one. I do say one beer on the weekend. It's a glad you can, but it's a one beer, you know. And and that's just been me. But now, when we think about alcohol basically is a neurotoxin. It's toxic to the body, and so as we age, it can affect us adversely. Well, interestingly enough, one of the earliest examples of an adverse effect of the use of alcohol is found in the book of Genesis. Noah, everyone knows about Noah and the ark. What they don't often know is that after Noah got out of the ark, after he planted a vineyard, he grew some grapes and he made some wine, and now he's pretty much up in age, and he gets a little drunk, and next thing you know, he's laying there naked. Okay, something happened because of that. Something happened because it came down to the neurotoxins in the body that he put in first. So, number one, I don't drink with everybody. I have my beer and I'm off to myself and I'm enjoying my music and I'm going to sleep. But I don't do that every day. Sometimes I'll do that every other week because the primary thing is to celebrate the body and your health in your life. And so if you're going to do that, you want to do something not just in moderation, but sometimes with a little deprivation as well. You know?
No, absolutely. Studies show that as you get older, so when I was younger, and I imagine you were younger and your audience was younger, you could go out all night and get them go to work the next day. That's because you have muscle mass. As you get older, you lose that muscle mass, and it's harder to metabolize that alcohol. That's why you wake up feeling bad. In addition to that, so it is poison to the body. I wholeheartedly agree with you and the Bible. Okay. It is, but it also inflames the body. So you become bloated, you're more miserable. And should that happen, you say that was yesterday. So here's this positive mindset and these coping skills coming in. That was yesterday. Today is today. I'm going to drink a lot of water. And so that's exactly
Got
where
my
I
stuff
am.
right here.
Right. So you should drink a lot of water to flush your system. Also, if you're on medication, all of us are on some level of medication. We have to be. And so one of the things we find here in our household is you have to drink a lot of water to flush the medication, but to align with what your doctor is telling you. Okay. And that sometimes can be a little bit difficult challenge because the medication can make you feel lethargic, depressed. I know they had me on at least 5 or 6 pain medications. Easy. Okay. And they wouldn't listen to me and it didn't work. And they just kept prescribing. And so they had me on an anti-inflammatory and pain medication. And I simply looked at the doctor and said, what about my kidneys and my liver? Oh, that's a good point. Let's go run a test. So again, your own CEO, the information is out there online for you to ask in AI and Perplexity. I'm not recommending that AI or ChatGPT or Perplexity replace the advice of a medical professional. What I'm suggesting is you can ask some questions and then go into your doctor with a list of questions because the doctor business is not like it was when we were children. You knew your doctor, your family knew your doctor. You went in, your doctor spent time with you. And that is not the case. He may have to see 25 patients. He has 15 minutes with you. If you don't have your questions in hand, that is a mistake on your part because they will assume no responsibility. When I went to see my doctor after 4 weeks, I was ready to go with questions. And I said to him, I kind of put him on the spot, and I'll share this with you. I told him I trusted you and you said it would be right. What could he say? He said that you're behind schedule on your recovery, and we're gonna put you on some more medicine. I was like, okay, and he said, call him back. Well, I opted not to call him back. That was 2 weeks ago today. I opted not to call him back. I'm going to email him when the time is right and tell him that I'm doing much better. I'm off the medications because again, the medications are only a band-aid, and you want to use that band-aid. If you are in pain, use the band-aid, but you have to know when to ask a question. My partner's on a couple different blood pressure medicines and cholesterol. Why would you need to take two medications? It's a question. You're allowed to ask questions of the physicians. It's not that dictator kind of relationship anymore. You have to ask them, well, would it be better to take this? Would it be better to take that? Fortunately, we are blessed. We have a concierge medicine doctor that we trust, and he's used to me asking a million questions. Okay. So,
Um, from the doctor, my doctor today. And the funny thing is, it's actually, I started out with that medical facility way back in like at 2017, 18. And I told, and I was the doctor I was dealing with at that time. I told him we developed a good report because I told him I'm a I'm a health and life coach. I'm learning about wellness. I'm learning these things, and so we're not going to spend 5 minutes together. We're going to spend half an hour to 45 minutes together because I got some questions for you. And we developed a good rapport. And when COVID hit, it got to be very interesting because in a way I now became his coach because he was dealing with a lot of loss because a lot of his patients were just dying. So
mhm.
after that, business got to be, I guess, too good. He took over the business end of things, and his niece is now my doctor. We have a great rapport, but it's I guess it's not the same. Maybe I'm being chauvinistic because we were kind of getting this bro factor there going, but she's very good. She listens to me, and when I ask questions, she'll answer it. And if she sends one of her assistants to call me about test results, they know they're going to get it from me. Because if you ask me, if you're coming and tell me about maybe my potassium or maybe my A1C, and I said, well, wait, hold on a second. Why is it low? What's going on there? Okay, I can't just eat more bananas. There's something going on. Oh, by the way, I found out that this particular medicine is actually robbing me of my potassium. Why didn't you know that? Okay, why am I being prescribed something that's taking my potassium? They're saying to me, well, you're low in potassium. We've got to do something about it. Here's something, not take the medicine, find something else. And so we had that conversation and we moved to that. The idea is that we take control of our health and we take control of our life. And you're such a wonderful icon of that. You and Nate as well. I got to move into this next point because it kind of takes us right to the future of things. Looking ahead, how do you see fitness, wellness developing for older adults? And then what role do you hope Panache Fitness and the Asian workout will play shaping that future?
That is a great question. So, what we talked about a little earlier, through the advent of online platforms, and there's such a great interest. That space that we live in, we call it pro-aging and longevity. Some people call it anti-aging, but we call it pro-aging and longevity is a hot space, a hot market. Even Home Shopping Channel has a whole segment on older adults where they're trying to market to older adults because they have the free time, they have retirement, some of us, and so that whole market of aging is changing. Aging has always been a market and seen in a negative way. Now it's seen differently. So these companies that are providing online classes are developed, the ones that we know about, by tech individuals who have now found a niche market to work with insurance companies to get fitness out there with to older people. One of the benefits of our shop is we're in that space and we're in that age group. So you don't find many individuals that are in that space and age that are actually doing the exercises. And one of the things, our greatest claim to fame is we actually perform the exercise. So we're not in an office looking online going, oh, I'm on LinkedIn and I can connect with Joe and Susie and Barry. We're out there actually performing the exercises, showing modifications, because at our true heart, we are instructors and charge activators and want to share with the public that it can be done in bite-sized pieces. Everyone knows what to do. You need to have someone explain to you how to engage you to do that. How do you get there in my given situation? Everyone's situation is different. My situation had happened that I had a special needs son, and I was in not a good place, not a good relationship. I raised him by myself until I met my partner, and I turned to fitness. My bio says that I turned to fitness as a way to manage raising a special needs person in Miami by myself with no family. And so that was my introduction. I went on to work corporate, quit my corporate job, and realized back in 2005 that I could, taking some classes, that I could do this for a living. We've since evolved, moving in the right direction 22 years later. And we are both sought after as speakers. We just dropped a 20-session podcast with you. We did one with modern aging with Risa Mortimo. And so we want to share what we do. BlackRock approached us. So we're getting speaking engagements, but we're still at ground level teaching. BlackRock approached us to talk about retirement in this new age of aging. The money you put aside or that your parents taught you to put aside, it's certainly not enough with Social Security to age. So, we did that with Gail King and sat on a stage with her and talked about aging and 401k. My 401k is in my special needs son. That's the way it worked. I need to set up for his future. There is my 401k. Okay. And so I need to keep working. And I think what we've come up with is elder empowerment, which is a combination of passion. I love what I do because I get to move and be this charge activator, purpose. It gives me a purpose, in the days I don't feel like it. Today I was up at 4, I was in the gym at 5:30. It kind of sets my tone in my day. So if I don't get back, which I won't tonight because I sell fitness equipment, I'll be working at my desk, but also pay. I think there is a lot of concern about paying elders, that elders or people that are older should do things for free. Okay, because you're older, you should donate your time because you're this and you're that. And we believe that what we have is worth something, So, that's kind of where we see it, this pay, passion, and purpose and exchange, and to bring people closer and deliver it in bite-sized chunks and share our experience. We had this gym pre-pandemic. We store all of our equipment here. There was always a TV screen. Come pandemic, everything shut down all over the country. We then showed them how to Zoom from the places we were contracted with, how to do Zoom classes. That opened a whole new door for us to continue to get the word out. And really, that's the most important thing, is getting the word out, showing everyone that they can take charge of their own life, their doctor's appointments, and that it is within their reach to take care of themselves.
Just right now, here are we. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Wow, it's amazing. What I find interesting is that you have CEOs who are in their 70s and 80s, and they will quit one job and move to another corporation and become the CEOs of that corporation. No one asks them why they don't retire. No one asks them, when are you going to give up and just later? No, and then they leave. They get a bonus of several $1,000,000, and then they go to this other company. They get on a sign-on bonus of several $1,000,000, and they stay there for a few years, and they leave and get another bonus, and they get bonuses in between. Okay, and they are 70 years old, 80 years old, and they're fine. But folks like us are expecting us to teach for free, work for free, and then somewhere right off into the sunset, or lie down, be carried off into the sunset. But that's not what it's about. There's so many things in the world and that people have an opportunity to be involved in. Myself, I studied the Bible with individuals, and I try to help individuals that way. But also, I work with what's called Shinrin Yoku, and helping individuals to do mindfulness with the forest, in the forest, and connect. With the
Ecotherapy.
forest. Absolutely. So there's so many different things that can be done, and life is an adventure. When you have more time, go for it. And that's kind of the way I like to look at things. You know,
Make good
I,
use of, you have to make good use of your time and how you spend it. And
mm,
again, it comes down to coping skills and how do you get those coping skills out. What we want to do is be part of a health of a group that tells people about healthy span, not lifespan, healthy span, longevity. And we teach individuals better habits for a better quality of life, for enhanced longevity. So as you talk about those executives that go from place to place to place. Those are some most sought after individuals. So my partner works at a place that is very exclusive, the 5%. I can tell you that during season, 21 to 25 of those people get up to work out with him at 8 o'clock in the morning because at the end of the day, it's all about the health. And that's where we take the line and we draw it flat. We treat everyone the same, whether they're a gagillionaire, a billionaire, or whether they're at a small organization or whether they're online. Between the AARP and Age Bowl, we get anywhere from 50 to 100 clients participating in classes. And it's really about that sense of belonging. Richard Simmons, I took this from Richard Simmons. You remember Richard Simmons? He was doing online hybrid classes before they were online hybrid classes. No one on there was buff. Not one person, including Richard Simmons. But he had this way of including everyone so they felt like they were part of it and they were moving and grooving. And that's where Panache Fitness and the Ageless Workout lies. Somewhere in that everyone can do it, be a part of this with us, but we also bring to the table experience and science-driven data. A lot of times we get that our information is not science driven and it's not science driven data and that we're enthusiastic. That's what people tell us. We're just enthusiastic. We look at that and say, yeah, yeah, okay. It's a lot more than enthusiasm here to be able to get down here on the floor and do push-ups and these exercises. And all of those people who call us enthusiastic are dead wrong. It's about resilience and training and mindset, and whether you can do a push-up on the floor or push-up on the wall. A wall push-up does the same thing. It is that movement of the shoulders. Your hands need to be lower. Look, you can't do a push-up. Look, here's an air push-up, and I'm sitting. You can do it too. And so, for us, we've had a hard time breaking into some arenas because we're late. There's not quite honestly, and I'm not afraid to say this, there's not a lot of people of color, okay, in the wellness side of it, okay, or aging that actually do this. So, we face all of those challenges and embrace every one of them. I mean, what else can we do? And every day we receive another opportunity and we just keep on plugging and plugging and plugging and plugging. And what else is there? There's opportunities to be made, and we really believe, Nate and I, that we are shaping the new age of aging. We call it, and I should tell you this. I watched something recently on Netflix about WWE. You know what WWE is. I know you don't watch it. I know you're not going to admit you watch it. We all watched it as kids. Right. Your audio went off, but you said you watched it before. Watching the documentary
mm,
and how they managed to stay current
mm,
in business. I'm not talking about whether it's real, it's not. Watching how they stayed current and evolved the business to keep it current, to pack stadiums is what it's all about. It's all about seeking that opportunity, going direct to the public and talking to the public about things that are of interest to them, staying relevant, using coping skills, taking the skills we have and putting them out there and talking to people opens doors for us every single day. The opportunity to talk to you again is truly a blessing. And I'm so honored to be able to speak to you again. And so that's where you have to be, is you have to take what used to be. Sears went out of business because they couldn't take what used to be and make it into something else. How many companies have we seen go bye-bye because it's not the way it used to be? And so that makes it a challenge. You know, you have to be able to be resilient. Fitness has changed, you know, not sometimes for the good, but you know, I think there's a lot to be said in our age group and our market. And we're here to say it, and we really believe it. And we actually do the exercises, and that is what is key.
You know, when we do something and our mindset is there, we see the results, we see how we're helping individuals, we see how communities grow. You can't help but get happy, and you can't help but get motivated to continue to do it again. That's the byproduct of all that work and all of that insight and all of those experiences and all that joy. So,
Passion.
you know, that's what it is. You know, Sheba, I've got one last question that you know I'm going to ask because I ask it to all my guests and I asked it to you before, and it rounds everything out. I am so amazed to see you here in this space again, but in spite of 2 hip replacements, you still have the energy and the appearance of someone that we need to card to make sure they can get into certain places and drink certain things. So that said, I wanted to ask you this, Sheba Karfani, what does it mean to you to crush your mountain?
You know, that's a great question. You know, when I started my career and I came to Miami in 1989, you know, I worked in corporate jobs and you went here and then I finally landed a job at University of Miami and then Florida International University and United Way and a lot of nonprofits. All right. So you went, nonprofits work differently than businesses, but you went and you knew what you were going to expect every day. Okay. When I switched careers in 2005 and I quit my corporate job to take care of my son because I no longer wanted to ask, you know, can I be off? I had to take him to this doctor. Can I be off? And waiting for that one check every 2 weeks. Okay. And then you have to beg somebody, I'm doing a really good job. What I can tell you now is that I make my own way. And is it a challenge? Yes. As an entrepreneur, I get to determine my schedule. And as a senior, that's important to me. My schedule, who I work with, my income or lack thereof. There are days where there's lack thereof. But crushing my own mountain means being in charge of my life. It's like when you're retired, you're free. You talk to people about, well, what are you going to do when you retire? I'm not going to do anything. Well, that's the wrong mindset. You've got to be out there and be able to adapt. So crushing my mountain is adapting, providing for my son, Gino, long after I'm gone, living the best life that I can, sharing my fitness and wellness experience, what it's like to be a woman of color in America. If that's good, if that's bad, the way they see you, and I get a lot of reactions to that. I even get reactions to that I'm not a woman of color, So every day is another adventure. And crushing my mountain means taking things on new that'll make me stronger, more resilient, able to be passionate, stay current on the things that I want to stay current on, be there for my family, be there for my friends, and spread a mindset of agelessness. Ageless, the new age of aging. New age of aging, NAA. So what I told you about WWE was they changed it to a new world order. So this is the new world order, NWO, NAA, New World Order, New Age of Aging. The New Age of Aging is all about resiliency. How you feel? How do you crush your mountain? Crushing your mountain is being with your grandchildren. And I had a client that said she was the only one that was able to go into the wooden castle. That was crushing your mountain. If crushing your mountain means living by yourself and maintaining your independence, then crush it. Crush it every single day. If crushing your mountain means finding something to do or going to meet your friends, crush your mountain. If it means taking the most steps, I was second this week and I did 92,000 steps, 46 days post-hip replacement, and a 75,000 step challenge. Who does that? That's important to me. What you've got to find out is what's important to you to crush your mountain, and then you will feel a sense of peace, because it's all about peace at this age. What makes you happy? Who makes you happy? How do you resolve it if you're not happy? How do you get to that solution instead of talking about it? I'm looking for solutions. I'm not looking for drama. If something isn't right, I'm working towards a solution. If I can make it happen, fine. If I can't, I'll put it down. I'll come back. I'll accept it. And then I'll move on and tackle another solution. Medications. How do we afford our medications? Some of us. How do we afford our health insurance? Medicare is not free. You don't know that yet. Okay. Social Security gives us Social Security, but they take Medicare out and then they tax you on it. That's a whole nother conversation. Okay. How do you manage that and supplement that income with something that makes you feel good? And that's how you crush your mountain. That's what that means to me.
Anything to that? I can't add anything to that. That's just all encompassing. I mean, so many individuals have been on, and they tell you their perspective, and all of it is good. But what you've just brought forth, you've covered she's covered so much ground, and it comes down to, as you say, peace with yourself, happiness with yourself. Okay, because at the end of the day, we have to be in the top shape for ourselves and our loved ones. And so if we have individuals, perhaps we are, like you said, living on our own. If we're living on our own, we definitely want to be in the shape where we can pick ourselves up. It's gotten to be a point of comedy, because years ago they had that little alarm necklace, and if you fall,
right.
And the lady said, I've fallen and I can't get up. But the challenge is, right, so many people fall and they can't pick themselves up. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And I know for myself.
And that was a big marketing campaign, and you still remember it. That's big for the company. It was a great ad. They did it Coach Fitness.
Yeah.
It was a great
ad.
You
see, myself, I was working the other day, and I backed up and something was coming at me and I fell down. But guess what? I was able to get back up, and I got up a lot quicker than a lot of other people that my age. I know someone, I love him dearly, but if that man fell down, they'd have to give him a crane to pull himself up with, because he doesn't have the strength to do so. You see, he doesn't have, and he's not taking care of himself. One of the things I remember, I talk to my sister all the time, and I encourage her to take certain steps, because she's by herself, and I want to make sure that she is in the position, if we can't get to her, she can lift herself up, you see, and get to her phone if need be, and call us. But even my sister-in-law, she's going to be with us, moving to the area, and I've already started coaching her on things that she needs to do so she can maintain that knockout look she has, but more importantly, that knockout look that she has, okay, can keep her motivated and moving and lubricated on the joints, things like that. So very important. So I want to thank you so very much for the passion you bring, both you and Nate. You both of you so incredible people, and I'll never forget how Nate even left me a little message after the show. You guys are a class act, and it's such a wonderful experience to hear you, learn from you, be encouraged and motivated by you. And I know everyone that is there in your space benefits from your energy and your passion and your incredible resilience just with the hip replacements. And, friends, these are things that you need to take away. Ask your doctor questions. Be determined to be your best self in terms of your health and your wellness. Don't view aging as a curse. You see it as a blessing. Why do you want to see it as a blessing? Guess what? One of the titles or names for God is the Ancient of Days. Don't you want to be called that? Because no one would call him frail. He's not George Burns, I tell you that. So we can tell you one thing for a fact. Do the things that you can to maintain your state of health, maintain your state of wellness. Make sure the doctor is not your boss. Make sure he's your coach. Make sure he is the person that can guide you. And whatever you can do, get with individuals like Sheba, like Nate, and so many others, so that you can be your best self. You can certainly reach out to me down here in the town of Crepe Myrtles. By the way, when the first episode we did, I was living in the city of Oaks. I now live in the town of Crepe Myrtles, and it's a great little town. It's beautiful people, and we've even got an episode coming up at a local gym down there. So we look forward to that. If you have found this information, and I'm jazzed up, I'm buzzed up. You can stick a wire in me. I will light up the city after talking with this lady today. If you have found information, this particular information powerful enough, like, subscribe, reach out to Sheba. She's going to leave the information and go to panachefitness.com, go to agelessworkout.com. Okay, and always you can reach out to me. In any case, however you do it, what's important is that you take care of yourself. As I always say, don't just climb your mountain, crush through it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much, Sheba. It's great to see you again.
Thank you so much. You crushed.